We have a major Bruce Brown trade update as multiple reports have dropped today revealing that Masai, Ujiri, and Bobby Webster now have multiple teams they can negotiate with in Bruce Brown trade talks, and one is including the Milwaukee Bucks, who were directly linked to the Raptors wing by an NBA analyst, and another team seems to be pivoting their offseason direction, leading to a lot of people pointing to Bruce Brown as a perfect fit for that squad. So lots of stuff to break down because Bruce Brown is one of the Raptors' key trade assets this offseason. Reports have already come out essentially saying that the Raptors are picking up that option with hopes of trading him in the coming weeks. So looking at the new destinations are going to be key for the Toronto Raptors to get the best possible package in return to set us up for the future. But you saw it in the thumbnail, broke it down in the intro. The Milwaukee Bucks are the first team that was mentioned, and it's coming from Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, who broke down that Bruce Brown is a former hidden gem who won a title and now belongs in the proven veteran category. League sources expect the Raptors to pick up Bruce Brown's option this summer and then look to trade him, which comes as no surprise because he'll be 28 next season. The Raptors are currently rebuilding. Brown is a super versatile defender, a tone setter, a rebounder, a scrappy do-it-all maestro on offense, and every team should want Bruce Brown. Well, KOC, I appreciate him gassing up Bruce Brown, giving him, some praise, which if you watched all the games of the Toronto Raptors, he wasn't phenomenal to close out the season, but is definitely a guy I'm still high on as a good basketball player. Was dealing with some injuries, so there's some built-in excuses, but that's not really novel information. But this is where KOC comes on and says that the dream fit really is with the Milwaukee Bucks. There are rumblings that the Bucks would like to play a more versatile style of defense next season, which raises the question of whether Brook Lopez has a future there. Trading Brook Lopez for Brown is a perfect match of salaries, and then the Raptors could flip Lopez elsewhere. The amount of screening and cutting that Bruce Brown could do in support of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard would be glorious to watch. So essentially, KOC is looking at the salary cap, he's plugging into the trade machine and says, hey, we can make a Bruce Brown for Brook Lopez swap go down. And frankly, I would be very comfortable with this if we were given assets attached to it. Now, given the Stepien rule, given the stuff that's going on, the Milwaukee Bucks literally have no draft picks that they can really trade over the next 6 seasons. So there's not a lot of draft capital that they can deal with, but after they make their 2024 selections in the first and second round, then those guys could potentially get traded, if the Milwaukee Bucks were so inclined to make a deal happen. So that's one route the Raptors could pick up some assets, attached to a Brook Lopez deal. But again, we're not just taking back Brook Lopez for a Bruce Brown swap. It doesn't make sense. We have 2 centers already on the roster. Brook Lopez is even older than Bruce Brown, and Brown is a guy that, his trade value might be lower than it was at the trade deadline before he came to the Raptors, but still 11 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. A guy that we know on a contending team like the Milwaukee Bucks would provide serious value. So maybe a team would be interested in Brook Lopez. A 3-team deal could kind of work out if that's the structure, the package that KOC is kind of pitching, but because other than that, there's not a lot of other pieces that the Milwaukee Bucks have that really interest me as a Raptors fan. I mean, obviously the Giannis, the Damian Lillards, Chris Middleton star players, but that's extremely high salary for those guys. And we're not going to get Giannis. We're probably not going to get Dame, but Giannis making $79 million in 2027-2028 season. Bananas. But Bobby Portis is also an interesting piece. But again, he's more of a veteran player, and the Raptors are moving in that rebuilding direction. Pat Connaughton, again, 31 years old. Majon Beauchamp, 23 years old. I haven't seen much of him. Doesn't jump out of the page as someone that excites me in a potential Bruce Brown deal. But, interesting sort of pieces there for the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe the Raptors could get attached to a bigger deal or find a new suitor for Brook Lopez, because we know Masai Ujiri can negotiate, can make some stuff happen. I mean, with the Raptors' current roster, this is the breakdown of the Milwaukee Bucks picks. They have, the New Orleans Pelicans pick for this season because it's in the pick swap from those previous Drew Holiday trades, and they also have a second-round selection in this year's NBA draft, and then basically all their futures are essentially gone. So we're not going to be able to get draft capital specifically from the Milwaukee Bucks, and again, Brook Lopez doesn't really complement our roster with Kelly Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl already on it. So again, the Bucks are an interesting team. You could definitely, if the salaries match, that's huge in an ability to facilitate a multi-team deal. But again, as Bruce Brown Brook Lopez isn't the most attractive asset we could get in return for one of these contracts. But another deal that has been brought up is the Philadelphia 76ers. The Shams came out and reported today that the Sixers' interest in pursuing Paul George has significantly waned in recent days, and the franchise is expected to be aggressive elsewhere with the salary cap, flexibility, and draft capital leading into the next weeks of the NBA draft, sources tell The Athletic. So, why is this important? Again, the Raptors aren't named in this report from Shams. Well, the Philadelphia 76ers, going back to the trade deadline, had some interest in Bruce Brown. They were interested in one of these packages actually happening, actually going down. So there's that. But two, the Philadelphia 76ers specifically opened up a ton of cap space this offseason to, bring in the Paul Georges, bring in a versatile wing to add to their, obviously star tandem in Joel Embiid as well as Tyrese Maxey. And frankly, missing out on Paul George is one thing. They also missed out on Alex Caruso. If you're not checking out Sixers Digest, check out Sean down there. He's been crushing it with the vids lately. But basically, they're interested in Alex Caruso too. They want those versatile wings to add inside of Tyrese Maxey as well as Joel Embiid. And again, their plan is kind of to do it in free agency, to get someone in there that's a versatile two-way guy. But all the big names that are kind of listed on their boards are falling off, dropping like flies. Paul George just explicitly said that, word gets around with Daryl Morey specifically. Obviously, Paul George is teammates right now with James Harden, who had a very brutal flame out with the Philadelphia 76ers head of basketball operations, GM, whatever his title is down there in Philadelphia. So word got around to PG that he probably shouldn't go to Philly. And now they're kind of hurting in a spot for a guy that does what Bruce Brown provides. Versatile defense, can be a complementary piece off of star players. Now, obviously, is he a Paul George level asset? Is he, even Alex Caruso? No, not at this point in his career. Given the contracted size, it's an expiring, all these types of things. But he is a guy that could complement a Joel Embiid who, again, he did it with Nikola Jokic. He could definitely do it with Joel Embiid, be a valuable piece. And the Sixers have some interesting assets they could send back. I mean, they have a couple two-way guys that are pretty interesting pieces in Terquavion Smith, who shown some potential, shown some flashes, hasn't gotten a ton of run, a ton of opportunity down there with Philadelphia. I'm not sure if they're going to bring back KJ Martin, but there's some interesting guys on the Sixers, and they have more draft capital than the Milwaukee Bucks to make a trade go down, to make a trade happen. So, the Sixers are a team that I would be interested in more so making a deal with if than the Milwaukee Bucks if it's just a Bruce Brown for Brook Lopez straight up deal. Obviously, we still have a ton of other teams that have expressed interest: the Knicks, the Lakers, the Mavericks, all these types of squads. So to have more and more teams interested, the same way we thought we had going ahead of the trade deadline, interested in acquiring Bruce Brown, and that's going to be a positive. That's going to be a plus for the Toronto Raptors negotiations heading into the summer. And hopefully we don't lose the asset for nothing. But folks, let me know what you guys think about this Bruce Brown trade talks in the comment section down below. You guys are the best thing as far. Again, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be covering a ton of Toronto Raptors content over the season. It's just about to ramp right up. So you guys are the best. I've sided out. Cheers.